All right, it's time to start cleaning up the grape bushes or vines from the summer. So we've hit frost here a couple nights, and the leaves, you can see they're dead. They're just waiting to fall off at this point. So it's time to prune back pretty aggressively our grapevine. A couple of things, mine are already trained, so it'd be a different process if you have a young grapevine versus an older or established grapevine. I'll talk about where the grapes typically will grow next year. But before you get started, you're gonna want some good pruning shears or loppers. It becomes pretty woody pretty quick, so you'll want something heavy duty like this. It's gonna be a big mess, so a rake, but I'll tell you that just these two vines here will easily fill up the trash can that I have. So it's gonna be a couple of weeks probably before I fully get them all out, if I'm just emptying them through the trash cans. I wear long sleeves. It's chilly this morning, that's partly it, but also if your grapes have had the little yellow and black caterpillars, the leaf skeletonizers, they have tiny barbs on their hair. Even after they're dead, it still seems to affect my skin, and I'll break out in a rash. So I wear long sleeves when handling anything around the leaves. Let me show you kind of what we're looking for here. So this would be 1 year old vine. This was green this summer, and it now is starting to take a woody appearance. Typically, this is what your grapes are gonna grow off of. I will tell you though that with these vines, I have not had any issue with yield on the grapes by really aggressively cutting them back. So I'm gonna do that again this year. I'm gonna cut them back really aggressively. I'm only gonna save a few of these 1 year old vines on my red grapes, because it doesn't seem to affect them like it should from what I've read. I'll still get a good yield by cutting back aggressively. When I tackle the green vine or the green grapes, I'm gonna do a different approach this year, because I never get quite the same yield on my green grapes that I do on my red ones. And I'm wondering if it's because I cut back too much of the 1 year wood or 1 year vine. So the one mistake people make is that they don't prune back aggressively enough. I mean, these things, I prune them mid-year just to keep them, or I trim them up throughout the year just to keep the light and the airflow to go through the grapes. So without that, you're gonna get mildew, and you're gonna get mold and other issues that are gonna affect your grapes. So get an early start on it by aggressively pruning back in the fall or winter after they've gone dormant. So I'll show you how I'm gonna do it, and we'll just speed it up. All right, now there are a couple places where I've noticed that my vines could still grow out, and in that case, I'm just gonna not fully cut back. I'm gonna keep some of that 1 year vine on the plant, and I'll just kind of train it where I want it to go, so that next year, that's where it is when it starts. Okay, I am going to keep this 1 year vine here and extend it out towards the left on the upper tier, because you can see it stops here. Based on all the last years, I think I would get full grapes on this kind, even if I cut it back all the way. I have always. But I am trying to keep some of the 1-year wood just in case I'm wrong on that point, because everything I've read says that it's going to grow off the 1-year wood, but I'm pretty sure I've always pruned it back to the actual woody vine, the main vine, and I still get grapes. So we'll see. Maybe this will backfire in the summer, but this is how I've always done it. If anything, I'm actually leaving more than I usually do on it this year. And if you're concerned too, you could always leave the 1-year wood, the 1-year vines past the second joint and cut it there, and that at least will leave some of the vine where the grapes can grow. So if you keep it past the second joint where you see the little bud or the branch coming off of it, then it should be okay as well. Honestly, I think I'm under pruning this bush. I'm not done, but I think I should do more. We'll just see. It's pretty pliable too, so you should be able to weave it throughout your trellis system. I have wire all over. This is old wire used to train the vine. I don't really have to train mine for the most part anymore. If yours is younger, you definitely will have to train it. You might want thinner wire than that, and you're gonna loosely train it. You don't wanna like cinch it onto the vine because they grow too quick. I made that mistake in some places, and I have wire that's embedded within the old vine. So don't do it too tight. Make sure you can see where it is so that in the summer, once it starts to adhere to your trellis on its own, that you can actually unclip it or loosen it. I honestly think I'm gonna regret not doing more. I'm gonna be back out here, I'm sure. I think I left far too much next year so that it will just shoot out way too quick. But if you have had any issues during the season with your leaves, if they get powdery mildew, if they get any kind of mildew or rot on them, if you've had the leaf skeletonizers, you want to clean up the bed as best as possible. So leaf blower. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. I missed. Remember, if they're down low, below here, there's no point keeping them. So you can take them clear down to. There's also a chance if you need to take off any of the old vine like this. That was originally just to train it, to hold it on there. I don't need it anymore. This piece I don't want. It gets too thick in here, so I'm going to take off this old vine out of the base. I always get new shoots right off of this joint here. That over here is starting to get a little closer than I like, so I'm actually going to take off this one because it looks less healthy than this one. In fact, it's dead, which I should probably investigate. That's coming from down here. I'm going to take it all off just to make sure. Yeah, that whole piece there is dead. The vine was healthy. I should probably look into that to see why that died. Inspect the rest of it. Like this piece, I'm really questioning if I even want that. But it's a good chance to show you. I don't have anything here, so this is how you would train it. Find a piece that I don't really need anymore. And I'll come closer once I have it done, but I'm just gonna get some vine, or not vine, some wire, and very loosely, just to hold it in place. I'm not tying it down, we're just holding it in place. So it's very loose. I could chop everything off above this or that, not go in. It should, this joint here should pick out new growth next year, and that's what I'll keep. Then next winter, if this vine keeps, what I'll do is I'll come down and clean it all up, because I really only want it to come out of here. So I'm gonna cut this above the joint here. And let me grab the camera to show you kind of what we're doing there. Okay, so this is the vine. It's right in the center of my plant. Normally, I would have shot for the initial growth coming right out of the center, but I didn't train it great. It went straight off to the side and kind of both sides. So I'm gonna just play catch up with that. I'm gonna come in and just loosely wire this one here. So this is tight enough on the trellis that that's not gonna slip. And then it's just very loose there. And when I talked about cutting it above the joint, so this joint, you can even see next year's buds are in there. That joint is going to be where the growth comes out next year, and I'll just train those green vines to come this way and this way to kind of bridge the gap. What I really ought to shoot for next year is more airflow in the center. I know I really tend to, it really fills in and causes some leaf rot. All right, so not thrilled with it, trying something new. I'm not used to seeing all of this 1 year wood on there. To me, it looks messy. There's way too many joints happening here. In all years past, I've gone and I've trimmed it all the way down to the actual main vine, this part, it's just super thick. And I've always had the grapes, but I'm wondering if that might be the reason I don't get as many on the green grapes, because I do the same thing over there. Again, typically your growth is going to happen, your grapes are going to happen on 1 year wood. So the wood that was green vine and then towards the end of the season has started to turn woody. That's where your grape growth is going to happen. So I'm trying something new on this one. I'm leaving a bunch of plants at the above the second joint. This is actually the third joint because I have 1, 2, 3. Could have lopped it right there and just kept that. Same thing here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Lopped it at the 5th. I could have cut it here. So I can tell you that it's never been an issue in the past, but now that I'm focusing on it, I'm sure it will. So anyway, let me know what works for you. What have you done? How do you prune them back? And if it seems to affect the yield. So that's kind of it for this grapevine until the spring. Next we'll tackle the pomegranates, which is pretty unruly right there behind me. So still have to harvest the last of the pomegranates. If you are a DIY crafter kind of person, this vine, you can actually make wreath out of it. We've done that before. It's better when it's still greenish to do it. Like right now it's cracking a bit. But if you're gonna do that, I would pick those vines earlier in the season when they're a little more pliable and then make your wreath out of that vine.